There are 4,218 PS2 games, and I'm beating every one of them. I've got to own the game because I'm playing everything on the original hardware, but I've beefed it up with a RetroTink 5X, some component cables, and more to come soon. Can I do this before I die of old age? I hope so. 187 Ride or Die was developed and published by Ubisoft and released in August of 2005 for both the PS2 and Xbox. A PSP version called Street Riders was developed by Virtuous and was released in Europe in 2006. The game received below average scores, with many citing that while the game isn't overtly bad, repetition has the game overstaying its welcome and the fact that it really doesn't bring anything new to the table. Can I beat this gang war sub racer? 187 Ride or Die was a requested game where you play as a character who is in the middle of a bunch of gang wars after your adopted father raises you to be a man that can actually fight other gang members, I guess. And to do this, you show your dominance by winning races and killing people. This is going to be an interesting journey because it will probably be very short. This game is very repetitive, and really the only thing that changes is the difficulty between everything at the beginning of the game and the end of the game. Of course, that's kind of how video games work, but that's about it. That's almost all that changes. See, this game is all about racing, regardless of whether or not you are shooting people or doing a specific kind of race or fighting people Twisted Metal style. You are always in a car, never on foot, and never doing anything like quests or missions that you'd go around talking to people. It's all driving. At the beginning of the game, we get a long tutorial video where we don't even interact with it, but it tells us everything we can do in some kind of gangster speak, which is not so helpful sometimes. I wish they were a little bit easier to elaborate on what you're about to do rather than just showing you in video, because there are a couple little caveats that would have been helpful to know. But here's what you can do. You can drive the car, you can brake the car, you've got two people in the car, one of them holds a gun, one of them drives. You control everything, unless you play a multiplayer mode. But since I'm playing single player, I control both the person shooting and the person driving. You can shoot forward, you can shoot backward, you can hold two weapons, two of any weapon, you can switch back and forth between them or drop them, you can fire them, and they will pretty much auto-lock onto the nearest car for you. You don't really have to do the aiming as much with most guns. Rocket launchers, those you absolutely need to kind of aim towards the car and make sure you aren't about to shoot past them or, behind them. Most guns auto aim in shotguns and auto rifles and pistols, and those ones are pretty easy to control. But once you get the guns and you start shooting, your goal is to just shoot other cars. Now, you can actually steal the weapons from other cars, which is kind of cool. If you smash into them, you take their weapon as long as you have a spot open. Sometimes it's best to drop a weapon and then smash into another racer if they have just gotten a weapon. Now, I don't know if you get full ammo when you take the weapon away from them, or you get the ammo left in their gun when you do, but you get a gun and you get to fire it, and then they are out of a gun, so that's kind of cool. But this is the crux of the whole game. You drive around, you smash into each other, and you shoot your gun. And we'll be doing this for every single mission, save for maybe one or two that you don't need to fire, but it's very, very rare that you do those. Most of this game is about shooting and racing. Here we can see the map, and we'll be going through each of the races on this map. And you don't really have a choice about what you do next, or as far as I can tell, I just hit X every time it comes up to this menu, and I go on. In fact, you don't really have a choice to pick anything but your car. And honestly, in this game, as you progress through the game, you unlock new cars. You pretty much just pick the best car depending on what kind of race it is. And you get different cars won by beating certain kinds of races. But it's a weird progression. You just always get to use the best car. There's no reason to go back and use another car, at least not that I've found. So just hit X and find the fastest, bestest car you got and use that one. Before I actually talk about how the game runs and what the missions are all about, I'll just quickly say something about the story because it's very, very generic and small. And there's only like 5 or 6 cutscenes in total. You play Buck, and you work for a guy named Dupree, and you are fighting against a guy named Cortez, or just other gangs. I think it's a lot of people. But none of the cutscenes really are helpful in making sense of what's going on. It's all very generic gang war stuff. I mean, it's just about as basic as you can get. I don't even know everyone's first name, and I barely know any of the characters that follow me around, which, by the way, are all women. They follow me around with guns, and they're actually really good at shooting people, but they don't have any voice lines, they don't have any names, and they don't do anything other than that, which, I mean, I guess that's cool, but Buck himself is not like an endearing character. He's not compelling. He just kind of was adopted into these gang wars, raised to fight in them, and then is doing it. And isn't doing a very good job, to be honest. I mean, I'm controlling him well, but in the cutscenes, he's just barely making it by with what's going on and almost dying each time a cutscene happens. At least it seems like it. So there's nothing really to talk about. And as you go through the game, it's very confusing. And you know what? I even looked up some stuff online, and there's very little on anything about the story on this game, probably because there's very little of the story to talk about. There are maybe 7 to 8 types of missions throughout the entire game, and you will repeat them over and over and over until you hit the end of the game. That is it. There's nothing new that shakes things up, it's just the same thing over and over. Now, there are quite a few different types of races and events that you take part in, but after the 5th, 6th time of doing the same thing again, it's just not that interesting. You do regular races where you shoot and kill people, and if you kill them, they are usually replaced by another car that will come into the very last place and then just take up spots. I don't know why, it doesn't seem necessary, but that's fine because there's another type of race that allows you to win by killing everyone. Because if you are in last place at any point in the race, when you cross the finish line, you lose. The whole idea is that you must both finish first and never be in last place. If you kill everyone, there's no one in last place, you're just first, so you win. So you can either race the entire race and get first, or just kill everyone. Although these vehicles are much harder to kill, you're in big SUVs, including yourself, and everyone has a lot more health. So obviously they did this on purpose to make it so that the race doesn't end in 5 seconds. But there are other types of races as well. Races that have everyone using only mines that you set on the ground, and the AI is very good at setting the mines. You have these twisted metal style levels where instead of racing, all you do is sit in an arena and fight each other. Now there's 2 types of these, and this one right here is you drive around and try and get the most kills without being killed. If you are killed, as long as you had the most kills when you died, you win, I think, or at least that's what I understand. And the other one is a car park, a garage that you'll start at the very top of and work your way down. Each level of the garage needs you to kill a certain number of players, and then when you finish, you can go around collecting weapons and picking up health, and then go down to the next one and begin there. You get stuck on that level until you kill everyone, so that's it. Now, that's practically it. You do several of these events over and over, and then eventually you get to a part where you're being chased by the cops. And this one has no guns. This is one of the ones I talked about that has no guns. You just drive as fast as you can in the fastest car you can get. For some reason you have time to get in the fastest car and ride from the cops. But they are very aggressive. It's the one time the AI is actually very aggressive and very good at driving. They will smash you into everything, and if your car stops for just a second, you get caught. That's it. So you cannot slow down at all. You must keep up your speed. And to do this, you do get turbo by doing drifts around corners and picking up turbo pickups. So this is in all parts of the game. The cop section is a little harder because all you get are turbo pickups every so often, and you'll need to really try to drift, otherwise you just won't be able to get away from them when they start sticking you into corners. I mean, they hit you with like 5 or 6 cops, and if you can't turbo out of there, you will get stuck and immediately get arrested. So you really have to be careful about what you're doing. As you're racing around, it's practically absolutely necessary to just hold down the fire button, because even if you don't have a weapon that you've picked up off the map, your person in the car with you will just pull out a pistol and do tiny little shots against people, even in the mine racing mode where there's no other guns. It does do a little bit of damage, but if you just hold it, you will always have a chance to be hitting the person in front of you. Now this is one of the few guns that does not lock on. It's mostly there to, like, you know, maybe give you the edge if you get a couple shots off on someone. Maybe they're very low on health and you can kill them with a couple of those pistol shots. But if you just hold the button down, you will always be ready to fire your weapon. And it feels necessary, like it's just another button you hold along with the gas button, because you need to destroy people, otherwise you're just gonna lose. Now, at least the twisted metal aspects of this racing game are kind of interesting, although very boring feeling after a minute. You get 2 weapons, you get this automatic shotgun and a minigun, and the whole idea is to just chase people around this arena and destroy them. The minigun does extreme damage to the car and will kill them very quickly. However, the shotgun will stagger the person shooting in the back of your car and make it so they can't fire. So you have to switch back and forth. You also have health and armor. If you deplete the armor of a vehicle, the person in the car shooting will crouch and not fire. So if someone depletes your armor, your character will crouch and not fire, so you have no way to fight back. You'll need to go find some health, and then they will stand back up. So it's worth it to have the shotgun out to stagger and reduce their armor, then get the machine gun out and fire to get their health down quickly. However, it's just mostly easiest to use the shotgun. I mean, it's a really good weapon, but you constantly stagger them, and the minigun will overheat. And that's something hard to watch out for as you're trying to drive around and chase someone, because the second they start running away from you, they're very, very hard to catch. The sad thing is that this is practically the whole game. I constantly race. Constantly, man, for 2 or 3 days straight doing this stream, just racing and racing and racing. And after the first stream, I felt like I had seen everything the game had to offer, and I was almost correct. There are only a very few extra things that make it interesting. One of them is that you can earn medals by doing specific things on a stage. So let's say I'm racing and it says to get a silver medal, you have to kill 3 people and finish the race. To get a gold medal, you need to kill 5 people and finish the race. The medal only works for the next race. So if I've gotten a silver, I'll get a reward for the next race and only the next race. And if I get a gold, the same thing, but obviously the reward is better. And as helpful as that is, it doesn't feel like that much of an incentive to do that well. Like, it asks you to do some difficult things, and I don't really see a need to go back and try to get those medals to make a mission easier. In fact, the very last mission, which was the only hardest mission in the game, the hardest one, I had the gold, I think, the gold reward for, and it was so difficult still, it didn't matter. So the rewards are, they're cool, I guess, they're helpful, but they're never anything that really changes things up. Really, it's just driving well and firing and killing everyone. That's practically all it takes. The last couple missions are fairly difficult, although this one in particular is the hardest because of one glaringly weird thing they decided to do for the last boss. This last mission is just grueling because it takes place in one of the car park missions where you must get from floor 3 all the way down to the bottom where you fight the last boss. And the last boss has a rocket launcher, and the rocket launcher is a one-hit kill. Doesn't matter how much health you have, you will die the second he hits you. So for 2 hours, I spend trying my best to get down from floor 3 to the bottom and fight him. Now, you don't get a rocket launcher, you must use the regular weapons, and those things do kill him, but much, much slower. And by the way, because he has the rocket launcher, if he sees you for a second, his AI is just the most accurate thing you've ever seen, and he will shoot you from a corner the second you're visible on screen. And if you are not moving fast enough and at the correct angle, it's gonna hit you and kill you. And that's how a lot of these attempts went. Over 2 hours, as I said, 2 hours of attempts. And this took maybe 6 to 8 minutes to get all the way down to him. And when I finally did, having him come around the corner and just immediately kill me was very demoralizing, I'll tell you what. It is a hard one, and when we looked it up online just to make sure I wasn't missing something, because it seemed like I might have been missing something. Nope, I'm not missing anything. This is how hard he's supposed to be. You just need to do, I don't know. What I ended up doing was keeping a very, very far distance from him. As you see as I'm talking here, enemies who are shooting at you have a green line aiming at you. When it turns red, they are going to fire. But they can only do so at a short distance. They need to be able to lock onto you, just like you lock onto them. So he cannot shoot the rocket launcher at you until he is locked on. The problem is that his range seems to be much larger than the other enemies for this rocket launcher. So you have to get a weapon that has a longer range, which is one of the rifles, and just drive past him very fast, shooting backwards at him and in hopes that he does not lock on in time and shoot you and kill you in one hit. Because there were many attempts just immediately dying. So after a long time of trying my best to kill him, I finally do kill him. It's just, I cannot believe how hard they made this last mission. It was most of one stream. I mean, I would have finished this in about half an hour had I not struggled so hard on this dude, but I don't know what they were thinking, man. So here he is. Here's this last boss, and it's scary. The second you see him, you know you can instantly die, no matter how much health you have. I have ×2 health. He will instantly kill you. It doesn't matter. I told you I had the gold reward, so I had 2 times health. But it's not helpful here. And so in this race, you only know where someone is located by the small icon at the far outer reaches of the screen. At the bottom left and then on the left of the screen, you can see it pointing toward where he is, like the direction he's at, but you don't know exactly where he is. And as you can see, this car park is full of different little avenues to drive and rails to get behind. So you really just have to learn where he could be, because if you get caught in a situation where he smashes into you, he can very easily kill you because you're so close, and it doesn't hurt him, he doesn't care. So yeah, this mission was horrible, terrible, I hated it. And this is one of the big reasons I did not like this game. This boss right here. It was so unfun, it just didn't seem like anyone play tested it long enough. I feel like they were like, well, yeah, you can do it. So it's either laughably easy because you keep your distance and you just happen to not get shot, or it's extremely difficult like in my case. Sadly, I'm going to end it here. While it was an interesting game and it has some potential, it just wasn't that fun after about the first hour. I had seen everything the game had to offer, except for the final frustrating boss, which I'm glad it took a long time to get to him, but still, right? Like, it doesn't matter. I still had to get to him and lose a bunch of times for me to just say, oh, I finally beat the game. This game is not worth playing unless you're okay with the fact that it's going to be boring and repetitive. And maybe you don't find it like that. Maybe you like the fact that these races are like this. I just couldn't find myself wanting to play this game ever again. It was just too repetitive. So I think I would give this game a 5. It still wasn't terrible. Like, a 5 is still a game that I had some fun with. There were some races where I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing pretty well in this race, and it's fine. The first time I played the game, it was fun, you know, I enjoyed the races and the shooting. It's just the next couple times, it was just too much, too repetitive. So, thank you for watching. Thank you everyone who was in the stream watching and trying to help me with the last boss and watching me struggle. Thank you everyone who has memberships to both Patreon, YouTube, and Twitch. Thank you everyone so much. I really appreciate it. And I will be back for game number 85 soon. Later.